بلش البث المباشر أستاذ فراس.
ثواني بس. نعم بدأ.
أوكي، ممكن تعطيني الهوست مرة ثانية؟ وممكن تشارك أستاذ فراس البث عبر اليوتيوب إذا سمحت.
شو نعطيش الدور المشرف؟ أنت مشرفة.
لا بس مش قادرة أنا أعمل
من
مشاركة الشاشة.
هسه راحت من عندي
أوكي، بس البث مباشر عادي، ما في مشكلة. بس شارك إذا سمحت الرابط تبع اليوتيوب عشان يتابعوا اللي بده يتابع عبر اليوتيوب. أوكي ready. أوكي، السلام عليكم جميعا. نأسف لكل الإشكاليات اللي صارت اليوم، ورح نباشر في المحاضرة حتى يتسنى للجميع المشاركة. طبعا هذه أولويات رح نبلش فيها. أحد منكم بحب يبلش القراءة أو بحب يتفاعل؟ خلينا نكون أكثر تفاعليا. ممكن تفتحوا الميكروفونات لأنه إحنا لحد الآن نوعا ما قليل العدد. What's the difference between translation and interpretation? We have already had 3 sessions and would like to know what you did understand about translation and interpretation. Anybody want to share his views? What's the difference between translation and interpretation? Okay, so I will pick up anyone who can read some of the words so we can go on, please. أستاذ فتح الله، ممكن تقرأ أو تشاركنا؟
قبل ما أقرأ يعني as I know from interpretation and translation, I think interpretation it is about live translation or personal or live translation.
Interpretation.
But, yes.
Okay.
But the translation could be written translation, could be books, etc.
Sure.
Literal,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. That's
As
the
I know.
resume of what our understanding is, the difference between translation and interpretation. So, translation, we are focused on a document, on paper working. Meanwhile, interpretation, we are concentrating on hearing or visualizing, seeing a text and translating it directly in the same moment for another language. So, translators focus on written content and require a higher level of accuracy and can take time to produce. If anybody needs acceleration in Arabic, you can already raise your hand or just open the mic and ask for any clarifying. Okay? So when we do a translation, we have enough time. We can read once, twice, 3 times a document. We can review its terminology, any wording we can't, we are not sure of its meaning. And we have sufficient time so we can understand, read, re-edit, check the grammar, check the orthography, check anything we need in a document. Meanwhile, when we are realizing an interpretation role, then our need is to get the main idea and to transmit the most accurate idea and wordings to the audience. When it's textual, it's somehow easier because we may have the text in front of us, and whenever we have experience, we can go ahead and maybe read more text than we are translating. So we can read and manage to understand more text while reading the text. So there is different alternatives of interpreting. While document, we already have the technique, we already know how to manage the documents and to translate. Okay, so interpretation deals with spoken word and is delivered immediately or prioritizing understanding and communication over perfection. Is this idea clear before moving on? Anybody has any question so far? I need to hear voices, please.
Everything's clear, thank you.
Thank you, Susan. So, interpretation occurs in the moment, either in unison with simultaneous or immediately after, which we called consecutive, for the original speech, mostly without any help from scripts, dictionaries, or other reference materials. Even though we may have the material, because it's preferable to ask my client or the entity I'm working with to provide me with some documentation, so I may have idea of what's going to be spoken, of what's the main purpose or what's the idea that will be rolling in the scenery, so I can understand what I'm going to talk about, or maybe prepare myself for any terminology or any document that may help, such as if it's legal, it's medical, it's about accounting, any material that may occur. I may prepare myself with some terminology that may need me in that moment. So, today's session will be somehow active, and that's the reason why we were trying to have the most complete audience for this session, which unfortunately we have few, but we have the best. We'll try our best and hope that the other persons may join later or may review the recording. So we have 5 major differences between interpretation and translation. There may be many more, but these are the most major differences. Anybody please can read if you wish to. Anybody will offer to read these major? Ustaz Fathallah, can you please join? Miss Rama,
Yes,
Miss
it's
Marwa.
okay. It's okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Fathallah.
Thank you. 5 major differences between interpretation and translation.
Okay.
Format. Interpretation handles spoken language in real time, while translation services are text-based.
Text-based, correct.
Yes.
Continue.
Yes. Interpretation takes place on the spot. The process can occur in person, over the phone, video. Yes, I have a problem with the screen. Or via video.
To amplify it? Is it
Sorry?
better now? Is it better now amplifying it?
Yes. Shall I continue?
Sure, go ahead, please.
Yes, translation on the other hand. Yes. Translation, on the other hand, can happen long after the source text is created. This gives translators ample time to utilize technologies and reference materials to generate accurate, high-quality translations. Number 3, Interpretation requires a lower level of accuracy to translation. Interpreters aim for perfection, but it's challenging to achieve in a live setting. Some of the original speech may be left out of the target language. For example, again, time is on translators' side when reviewing and editing written text for accuracy.
Can anybody take the mic to continue, please? Thank you, Fathallah.
Thank you.
So anybody else will continue before going into action? Please
Yes, I can.
go ahead, please. Thank you.
Direction. Interpreter must be fluent in both the source and the target language, as they are required to translate in both directions. I can't read it. It isn't clear.
Instantaneously. Instantaneously.
Instantaneously,
Okay.
without the aid of reference materials. Professional translation typically work in one direction into their own mother tongue,
اليوم
making
بعد
metaphors.
هلا بعد ما صفى شلت منه.
Suzanne, please, your mic. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, please.
Making
Marwa?
metaphors, analogies, and idioms resonate with the target audience is a challenge that both interpreters and translators face. On the
That
top
both,
of it,
no both, both.
what?
That both. This, سمعتك بتقولي both. Noise both is both.
Both. On the top of this, interpreters must capture tone, inflection, voice quality, and other unique elements of the spoken words, and then convey these verbal cues to the audience.
Okay, great. Everybody understood these five major differences between interpretation and translation. I guess we have talked about it several times, so I guess it's more clear. So let's go ahead with how do I train myself on interpretation? Is anybody of this audience right now do have any experience on any kind of interpretation? هل أحد منكم اشتغل بالترجمة الفورية؟
والله a little bit.
A little bit. So,
No.
okay, anyway. So, to be an interpreter, there's several steps. No, everybody, as we talked before, not everyone is ready to be an interpreter because if you can't manage stress, if you can't manage any outsourcing pressure, so you can't be, if you can't concentrate as well, you can't be in any form an interpreter. So you have to be so quiet of your ability to control stress, to control overpressure, to control how you manage yourself to be an interpreter. So as we talked in previous sessions, to be an interpreter,
It means
sorry, yes, go ahead.
we have to focus on the psychological side.
Sorry?
We have to focus on the psychological side.
Somehow, if you can't manage to control yourself, you can't manage to control how to act in a booth or how to act for a consecutive or simultaneous interpretation, especially if it's simultaneous interpretation, okay? Because you have to be so concentrated. You can't be distracted with any if you distract yourself just for a few seconds, even seconds, you will be losing a huge timing that will allow you to get an accurate or correct interpretation. Because once you start an interpretation for any language set or any language pairing, there is a loss of about 7 to 10 seconds before starting any interpretation, because you should hear at least one sentence so you can start your interpretation. Sometimes you do have previously the material, so you can have the aid of this material previously. Nevertheless, if you're going to follow the documents you have or the documents or presentations the client offer you, you will have the chance to distract, because most of the time, the lecturer or the spoken man or spoken woman won't be following textually the text that they gave you. Because sometimes if anybody interfere or ask something, they may change some of the presentation. So if you're following just a text in front of you, you will be lost. So there is so many things we have to manage, as we previously explained during the previous 3 sessions. I guess you already have the material and you can get back to it. And in another sessions, if you have any questions, we can just challenge these tasks or any question you may have. So we must train ourselves beside the psychologists, beside other personal issues. We must train ourselves besides domaining also the language. We have to train ourselves on how to start interpretation. One of the steps we can do is to get a colleague or an expertise interpreter who can invite us with them, so we can visualize or hear how they manage to work within a booth or within an interpretation session. It's somehow easier when you're working with a company, because you can manage to have 2 or 3 interpreters within a booth. So you can manage to hear and get to challenge yourself on how they use or how they act within a booth of interpretation, just an audience. On the other hand, we can manage to watch videos or to hear audio, because we have to train our ears on hearing correctly. And the same way watching videos. So you must listen in the language you have to work with, whether it's English, French, Spanish, Italian, whatever the language you're managing to work with. You should hear any music, any audio or video, and try to reproduce them or try to make the interpretation yourself while recording. So you can get back and analyze the text or the audio or the recording and check out what's the timing, where do you have difficulties, where you're lost, so you can get back to it later. Live events is also participating in some meetings, forums, whatever it's available for you, even some lectures, and train yourself to hear and write down. So you can write down what you're hearing, and if this lecture or this forum was recorded, you can get back to it and check out whether you have noted down correctly or you have heard correctly most of the lecture or the forum. So you can start with some small events, or maybe you can program with your peers, your colleagues, so you can make something that will help you to train yourself on any kind of interpretation. Simulated scenarios is what I'm talking about, is when you and your colleagues can make any scenario or any set of interpretation, interview, text, dialogue, or anything you'd like to, and you can exchange these scenarios where one of you may act as the speaker and the other one may act as the interpreter while recording the set of this scenario, and you can get back to it to review it. Shadowing exercises may help as a first step, where you can only record or repeat what the speaker or what the video is talking about. So just listening and train yourself to hear well. This is so important to start as an interpreter. And the peer practice is something like that with other colleagues, with other persons. We may manage at the end of these sessions to make a practice on interpretation through Zoom application. So I'll manage once I feel that the committed students are able to start make smaller interpretation, we can manage to make a session just to try to make some practice through Zoom. This is what we call remote simultaneous interpretation. I can help them so that 2 or 3 of you are set as interpreters, and we can manage to make this practice together. So, to gain time, since we have these, I wish you can read all these, which somehow I already summarized for you. It's more explicit here about each one of these practicing events, so you can read it with the material I already sent to you. So I need your participation and commitment now. So let's start the fun with the visual interpretation. What do we mean with visual interpretation? Can anybody explain? I already explained it before, but I wonder if you can, anybody can tell me what we mean with visual interpretation?
Visual of verbal interpretation.
Sorry?
Visual of verbal interpretation.
Okay. The visual interpretation, yes, go ahead, please. But
does it relate it to pictures or videos or anything visual?
Okay. Well, I would like to tell you somehow what we're talking about visual interpretation. Visual interpretation is somehow a silent, not silent interpretation. It's an exposition which it's textual. We can see the screen, we can see a text given to us, and we must,
semiotics.
Sorry?
Semiotics. It has a relation with semiotic.
It's optical, so we have to see the text while translating. So there is nobody speaking, and we have to translate what we are seeing on a TV screen, what we are seeing on an ecran. So it's something that exposed in front of us. This is mostly in some of the forums or important meetings that the translators or interpreters may be given the text that is written on screens to share or to discuss something. So the role of the interpreter here is to read and interpret this text to the audience without anybody talking. So this is a screen in front of us with a written translation, with a written text that the interpreter has to translate at the same time, but he's only reading, he's not hearing in this case, okay? So let's try to practice this. Let's try to read these paragraphs. And first of all, since we are starting in interpretation, let's just start reading the text. So we won't do the interpretation directly. So just we're going to read it. And then we'll try to take one by one, so to try to translate it at the meantime. I had just put English translation into Arabic because it's most easier to translate to your mother tongue. For the first time, we're making the translation from English to Arabic because Arabic is your mother tongue, so it will be somehow easier for you. So, anybody would like to read, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, go ahead, please.
The 10 program quality drivers are gender equality and inclusion, accountability to participants, do no harm, partnership, relevance and coherence, climate and environmental policy, sustainable impact at scale, adapting and learning, effectiveness and efficiency.
Okay, Suzanne, would you like to try to translate it?
Certainly, الفصحى.
No, we are making interpretation. So when you're doing interpretation, what would you like to select?
أكيد الفصحى, because everybody will understand it.
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh.
Just try. I know it's not easy. Just try. Just imagine that you're in an interpreting booth and you're going to translate it. Just a text exposed in front of you and you have to translate it. We are here to learn. We are not here to... Just try it.
Okay.
If anybody wants... Okay.
البرامج العشرة التي تقودنا برامج الجودة العشرة التي القيادية هون فينا نستعمل drivers.
Muy bien. Sorry.
هي هي المساواة في الجنس inclusion. What do they mean by that?
Okay. Inclusion
Okay.
شمولية.
شمولية. Okay, this is my first time, so محاسبة المشاركين، عدم التسبب بالضرر، الشراكة، relevance and coherence. I don't know what they mean by it here.
Coherence.
Coherent.
Okay, don't worry.
Anyway, المناخ السياسة المناخية والبيئية.
Sustainable impact or scale.
التأثيرات الدائمة المستدامة بحسب التدرج أو بحسب الأهمية. Adapting and learning. التأقلم والتعلم.
Muy bien.
Effectiveness and efficiency. I'll stop it because really this is the first time I'm trying this from English into Arabic.
Don't worry,
And
don't worry.
you know all the words, but you cannot find them directly in Arabic. So I'll stop here.
Yeah, okay. That's okay. Thank you, Susan. It was a great job. It was a
Thank
great
you.
job. Anybody else would like to try the same paragraph, please? هل أحد يحاول يجرب؟ اوكي. هلا في شغلة حكتها زميلتنا سوزان and I appreciate your volunteer to try. تجربة مش سهلة لأول مرة، فشكرا سوزان. أحيانا في التكستوال لازم نلاحظ إحنا بعض الكلمات. يعني هون مثلا سوزان قالت المحاسبة، هي مظبوط accountability هي محاسبة، لكن لما نشوف في النص هون حسب التكست، طبعا احنا هون مش موجود عندنا التكست كامل, we don't have the whole text here. So what we mean by accountability here is المساءلة. Okay, so المساءلة. راح أحاول أنزل هذا. I try to move this, so I will share with you the translation of this. We'll try to insert the Arabic translation here. طبعا هاي الترجمة اللي حطيتها, the translation inserted right now is a translation where we have already took time. But as you could evaluate by the intent of Susan, it's not so easy to get the words even we already know them. Okay? Even we already know the words, it's somehow difficult to find out the accurate word we need at the moment of a simultaneous interpretation. So let's check now. محركات الجودة. Okay, the program quality drivers, هم مثل ما قالت القيادات أو محركات الجودة لبرنامج البرنامج 10 هم gender equality المساواة بين الجنسين, inclusion هي الشمولية, accountability to participants المساءلة أمام المشاركين, do not harm عدم الإضرار أو خلق الأذى, partnership الشراكة, relevance and coherence الأهمية والتماسك, climate and environmental policy سياسات المناخية والبيئية, sustainable impact at scale الأثر المستدام على نطاق واسع, adapting and learning التكيف والتعلم, effectiveness and efficiency الفعالية والكفاءة. It's important to note, as you could observe, that we do know the words, but we must adapt this wording within the context of the interpretation session. So we may have these words, while these words may mean something else, which is not connected to the context of the meeting. So this is why we have to prepare ourselves for each interpreting session. Okay? Anybody else would like to try the second paragraph, please?
Yes, I would.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Economists have based their theories and opinions on a stable and balanced economy are the norm. Crisis is the exception. However, facts are different. Since no state in the world enjoys stable economy to the extent that the rule is the crisis, and the exception is stability.
Okay, great. So can you try to translate it, please?
Okay. The economists have based their theories on and opinions on stable and balanced economy as we know. I have based على أساس
Hello, Ms. Mania.
هنالك
Who are the economists?
اقتصاديون something like
Okay.
علماء اقتصاد.
Okay. الاقتصاديين أو الاقتصاديون. الاقتصاديون.
ماشي يترجمون نظرياتهم وآرائهم
Okay.
on stable and balanced economy على حساب
Mania, can I participate?
Sure. ممكن تتفاعلوا أكثر من شخص إذا بتحبوا تساعدوا، ما في مشكلة. Anybody can
Okay,
join to help. This is an interactive. We must participate. Okay.
You know, I was listening to the lecture through YouTube, so there I cannot participate or raise a hand. And I have the chance to join you on Zoom because it worked out with me and I could finally install the application Zoom. Anyway, I think we have reached the point to talk about the visual interpretation. Am I right so far?
Yes, you're right.
So, okay. I'm actually happy to be with you, and I hope that we can continue as much as possible till we all graduate as a very professional translators and interpreters, and with your help, actually. Anyway, you have asked, the members if they kind of had some experiences with the interpretation. So, like I said, I had some experience with that, but I cannot, participate. But now, after I joined Zoom, I have a question based on a little bit experience I have with interpretation, especially visual interpretation, in which I am not 100% sure of it, but you are my guide, and I'm going to put it to you. I think visual interpretation depends on you read a text and then you tackle a text in your brain, and then you just produce a very coherent, interpretation into the other language. My question is.
Yes, I'm hearing you, Ali. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. When you are handed a text and you are required to interpret into the other language, I'm saying this because I have heard some of the members read the text in English and then they try to interpret the text into the target language. By the way, another question which I have is, do we have to follow the grammar rules of the Arabic language when it comes to doing the visual interpretation?
Okay. Just asking your
see-
question, and based on my large experience, no one is perfect, and mostly interpreters do commit errors. So the idea here, we are under pressure.
Yeah.
We have audience, and we just
Mhm.
we just have to be the most perfect we can do the work. So as you said, whenever we have visual interpretation, which we are trying to start practicing on it, that's we are going to read it. You know it, and based on your experience, as you already told me, you don't have enough time to read the text. So it's mostly the same as you're doing a simultaneous interpretation. So you must be reading and interpreting the most you should be doing. So there's no time to check out grammar, to check out many things we do have. We just must be as accurate as we can, and to send and transmit the target, the main idea to the audience within the text.
Okay.
So we don't need to be so accurate in our translation, but we have to, it's the same as we are making simultaneous interpretation. So sometimes we may miss some wording or to gain time, because if you leave just a minute or some seconds to just think of a word, or just think if I missed something or I didn't recall any wording,
what should I do? Here comes another question.
Then I will lose most of the next step of writing, because whenever I have a screen in front of me, it will be changing. They will be changing the screen or moving the text, and this will make a huge branch for me.
Exactly. Then, Ms. Rania, I would like to give you an example of my understanding of this lecture. But before that, I have another question which I asked you, and you maybe did not, catch it clearly.
Yeah,
I've asked you if we have to follow the grammar rules of, like, for example, I'm an interpreter and I have to interpret from English to Arabic. And you know that the Arabic language, kind of starts with a verbal sentence and a nominal sentence. For example, the middle text we have here, economists have based their theories and opinions. For example, when I want to interpret this little text, should I like say, then الاقتصاديون آراءهم ونظرياتهم على الاستقرار والموازنة. يعني بديت بجملة عربية حسب القواعد للغة العربية، يعني أثناء الترجمة.
This is correct. This is what I must do. Yeah. Yes. We must be as accurate as we can. So mistakes may occur, but we must be the most accurate and professional as possible. So one of the things to be professional is to take in mind all these issues, such as grammar and all other things.
Good job. So I have understood two things from your speech, and which is, one of them is that I have to master my mother tongue first, and then I have to practice a lot as much as possible in order for the interpretation process to be very easy when doing it, which that gives me experience to handle the the process very professionally. Am I right?
Yes, you're right. By the way, Ali, I wonder if you, during your interpretation sessions, it's mostly important that you require the previous information, because this somehow help you to train yourself and to have an idea that may apply or may help you.
You know, I have told you once that the professional interpreter or the professional interpreter has to check around in case he can get some secretly information about what the conference is, what kind of information are going to be put during that conferences. Otherwise, he cannot depend on his own knowledge and say, I can do it, I am very professional, because there is always something surprising during the interpretation process that can cause an interpreter, to get shocked during the interpretation process, and then he won't be excused in case there is another partner with him, and this is not going to happen all the time, that an interpreter can have someone with him as an assistant.
Well,
So,
this is mostly whenever you have to work in a booth, you should have an interpreter or a companion, a peer. Whenever it's more than 2 hours, I guess you know that. So because many things may occur, and then you have to you don't have to manage it only you. So there must be a chemic between each one. And sometimes you have to work with somebody you don't know. So this is another challenge you may have to deal with.
Yeah, Ms. Rania, I have never had the chance to work as an interpreter, but I had the chance to have to have a legal course with someone so known to you and globally. I mentioned his name once, and it is needlessly to mention his name again due to some to some legacy he might like to keep. But my point is, I am so eager to have this session with you, and I will follow everything that can benefit me down the road with you. And I'm sorry to make it long, and I think I have took my enough time.
Okay,
please,
you,
you can
Ali.
proceed. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for
Thank
your
you very
efforts.
much. I'm pleased
I
for
would do
your
my best
intervention,
to
because
connect it.
even though I think it helped most of the participants as well with your experience and your points of view. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay,
So
you can go
Marwa,
on.
I guess, was sharing with us, but I guess here Mr. Ali already translated the text. So let's try the third paragraph. Anyone would like to challenge to try it, please? Or just to read it? Sure.
Conflict is one of the main drivers of crisis levels of food insecurity. Amid conflict can cause food shortage and economic decline, disrupt food and supply chains, and impede access for humanitarian aid, thereby
humanitarian aid.
thereby impacting the food security, nutrition, and health of civilian populations. Its effects are compounded by other key drivers of food insecurity, such as economic shocks and weather extremes linked to climate change.
Okay. Can you try to translate some of it, at least?
Okay, I will. Conflict is one of the main. الحرب هي واحدة من أهم أسباب
Okay.
الأزمات.
Conflict is not war. Conflict is not war. Okay? So be aware of the wordings. Conflict
الحروب.
may mean صراع أو نزاع. You can just add one of these.
الصراع هو واحد من أهم مسببات الأزمات.
لحظة ثانية. تتذكري لما أخذنا القواعد الأساسية الأسبوع الماضي في الترجمة؟ عادة لا نبدأ باسم، عادة يفضل أن نبدأ بفعل. So, based on this, can you please apply starting with a verb in Arabic?
تعتبر
تعد
أو
يعد الصراع أو النزاع هو يعد أو يعتبر.
يعد الصراع واحدا من أهم مسببات
من المحركات الأساسية أو من
أسباب
الدوافع
وقوع
الأساسية، دوافع محركات الرئيسية الأساسية. أوكي.
لحدوث الأزمات الأمن الغذائي.
أوكي، للأزمة، مستويات الأزمة الحرجة للأمن الغذائي. أوكي.
Armed conflict can cause food shortage. Shortage. How can someone say it?
shortage نقص.
Okay. Armed conflict can cause يمكن أن يسبب الصراع
الصراع
المسلح.
المسلح. أوكي.
shortage أن يكون يمكن أن يتسبب الصراع المسلح في أزمة الغذاء وانهيار الاقتصاد.
والتدهور وانهيار الاقتصاد. أوكي.
supply chain. نقص مصادر أو مصادر توفير الغذاء.
أوكي. supply chain هي سلسلة التوريد أو سلسلة الإمدادات أو سلسلة التوريد. أوكي.
الغذائية، الإمدادات الغذائية أو
أوكي.
الغذاء.
تعطيل سلسلة الإمدادات الغذائية. أوكي.
access. والتوقيف مساعدة الإنسانية، دخول
impede
أو وصول.
يعني تعيق. impede ما بتوقف، تعيق.
تعيق وصول المساعدات الإنسانية.
أوكي. وبالتالي
impacting the food security. والتي قد يكون لها نتائج على الأمن الغذائي.
أوكي. الأمن الغذائي.
المجاعة، وقد تؤدي إلى المجاعة.
أوكي. تؤثر بالتالي على الأمن الغذائي والتغذية والصحة للسكان المدنيين أو السكان.
أو يمكن السكان العزل هكا.
صحيح. Okay, we'll stop here. I will send you more texts so you can try to practice on visual interpretation. Okay? تفضل.
Rania, you have only 15 minutes.
Okay, just try to do my best and we'll beg everybody to review the material I already sent to the group so we can work with it next lecture, okay?
Inshallah.
So I will go ahead with the following, just to explain quickly. We have about 6 slides, but it demands about 1 hour of working. So since we are going to stop in 15 minutes, I'll go quickly on the text. So to advise you on how to manage the information already sent in the group, so we can work on it in the next session and have more practice. So I beg you mostly to participate effectively and hope to have more participants in our next session, okay? So this is another text we have to work with. We tried with this 3 short texts And we have more text here. In the slide 16, we have a citation from Gibran Khalil Gibran, so we're trying to discuss it. Please don't try to translate it directly. I need you please to translate visually, to interpret the text. No matter if you will do it wrong. This is the main practicing issues. I will give you some tricks later so you can manage it. But at this moment, what I need is to have trained interpreters. I don't need to give you many of the tricks we may have to use as interpreters that will facilitate somehow our working. But I need you to practice, because these issues or these tricks, we will have to learn them later, but we must dedicate ourselves to train well. And we don't have to go to the quicker way to achieve some information that will help us during our work. So we'll start training to be good interpreters. Once we can manage a normal stage to adapt ourselves on training, we can go ahead with some tricks that we managed to use that help the interpreter during his work. So we have several texts that we are going to work on later. Here we have some videos. I don't want you to go to the YouTube video. I just want you to train your hearing. So here we have to train hearing skills for interpretation. So we want to train ourselves, and what I need from you is please to write down, without going to the YouTube video, to write down what you can hear from these two audio tracks. So they are small.
But let me tell you other thing. Language is so important.
This is about language.
It helped me a lot. Because of artificial intelligence, in the future, people say, I don't need to learn English or Russian or Japanese. Something, a chip here can translate.
Can you hear it?
No, it's not about language. It's about the culture.
Not clearly.
When you learn the other language,
I will repeat it again.
you start. But let me tell you other thing. Language is so important.
Can you hear it now?
It helped me a lot. Because of artificial intelligence, in the future, people say, I don't need to learn English or Russian or Japanese. Something, a chip here can translate it quickly. No, it's not about language. It's about the culture. When you learn the other language, you start to understand the other culture. You start to appreciate, respect the other culture. When you appreciate, respect the other culture, you will be respected and appreciated by the others. Then you can work together.
So these short audios, what we have to do is to do two things for this practicing. It's a hearing skills for interpretation. We must train our ears to hear well what we can hear. So the two audios are different audios and with a different speaker. It's an extract from this video. So we have to train hearing twice or 3 times, whatever you need, and to write down what you heard. Then you can open the YouTube and try to check out whether what you wrote down was correct or not. And the same thing, you may practice the shadowing. That's it, to repeat what the speaker is talking, what the speaker is saying. So there is two ways that we are practicing to try to have the same tone of voice, to have the same speed, so we can practice our hearing skills and the shadowing as well, to figure out how much we can achieve from hearing the speaker. So this is another technique we are going to work on. And the third one, here we do have another audio for also.
When you think your glass is half empty, come on, your glass is half full. I believe in the power of words. Many people speak before they think. But I know the value of words. The words can make you, break you, they can heal your soul, they can damage you forever. So I always try to use the positive words in my life. They call it adversity, I call it opportunity.
So we have to train ourselves. This is another task you have to do, is to hear again, once, twice, 3 times, and then we have to write down what we have heard. And then we can open the YouTube and active the subtitles so you can check out if what you have written was correct or not. The other thing we are going to do, these are 3 practices on consecutive interpretation that we have to do, and we might also train ourselves, so you can train on yourself so we can make the practice during our next session. You have time to hear, time for interpretation, and this was prepared so you can also hear and practice. You can read these videos, the skills, and you can try to practice these videos I have chosen so we can practice on them. So thank you very much. And I'm really so sorry for all the events that happened today. Hope this won't happen again. And please, I beg you, please, to be on time. I will open the session 10 minutes before 10 p.m. So I hope that we can start at 10 p.m. exactly next Saturday. So I hope you can have the sufficient time to review all the material so we can have much time to practice and exchange experiences and learn from each other. So thank you very much. And if anybody else have any question, I'm pleased to answer.
On behalf all members with us, thank you, my teacher, Rania. You're amazing.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm pleased for your participation. Thank you as well, all who have participated effectively in this session. I hope we have more time, and hopefully you can review all the material and we can have a most productive session next Saturday.
Inshallah.
Ms. Rania, I would like to thank you sincerely, and I would also like to ask some kind of premature questions about this kind of sessions we will be having from this day on, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Concerning the shared material you have shared with us on the WhatsApp group, in which I haven't had the chance to review it yet, actually. But here comes another question. I will try to follow your pieces of advice, and I will try to review that material. But a question that raises my curiosity about these kind of sessions is, I'm going to follow your recommendations. The question is, will I be prepared to work as an interpreter at the end of the day, in case I followed your pieces of advice so strictly? I'm not asking you to give us a kind of certifications after we finish this sessions till the very end. Here is one question I have just asked. Another question is, I think there are three types of interpretations in which simultaneous and consecutive and insight interpretation, and I think it's also called visual interpretation.
No,
Which one of
insight, okay, by the way, insight interpretation is not the same as visual interpretation. Because insight interpretation is a kind of accompanying to accompany somebody. And this kind it's a kind of interpretation where you shouldn't follow any rule, because it's somehow unprofessional in interpretation session, where you are joining somebody to help him in a way or another to make some tasks. So in this kind of interpretation, there is no need to be, it depends, because sometimes they ask you to be so professional in this aspect, because it depends on the meeting itself. But insight is somehow when you have to go to a mine, for example, to a certain company, where you have to join some people to gain or to get a certain issue with them. So you have to, it's not just that tying as to be a consecutive or a simultaneous interpreter.
So Ms. Rania, my point is, which one of these I mentioned you are going to prepare us to be?
Well, I'm working on the three. I'm working to train you on the three, because I'm consecutive, insight, and simultaneous interpreter. So I'm trying to get this challenge to train all of you, or who will be participating. And regarding your question, it depends on the persons who are participating, because somebody will only join the lecture and will not practice. So it's like nothing. And this we are going to try to see later on, depending on how your involvement with the classes. So we are trying, as I said previously, I wonder if you have heard what I said. The only way I can try to help you is to try training all of you on the remote simultaneous interpretation, because I have the ability to assign some of you as interpreter, and we can make some sessions of training on simultaneous remote simultaneous interpretation, which is so similar to being in a booth. So we can practice it as consecutive or as simultaneous through Zoom. So this is what I can offer you. And and I guess by training, there is in interpretation, you always learn something new. So it's continuous learning. So it depends on you. I'm helping you to achieve the most you can do, and you can start practicing or joining some sessions. We may see what happened later on, and we can check out if we can make some practices.
So, Ms. Rania, you are telling us that you are authorized to legalize us and point us out as a professional interpreter, and to the point that we can practice to train students from our own. Is that what you meant?
We are going to try from our homes to practice on interpretation.
Yeah. Okay. So far, so good. So I'll try to speak with the members in order to be so engaging and interactive with the sessions, because this is the supreme goal of us being here with you.
Okay, I'm glad to. Thank you, Mr. Ali. I'm pleased to have you.
Thank you so much.
The participants.
Thank you so much for your effort. Thank you a lot.
It's my pleasure. Thank you all for participating, and see you next Saturday, I hope.
See you. Okay, see you next time. Stay safe.
Yeah, it will be at 10 p.m. Amman time. I wonder where are you? So you should challenge your to see what time is it. I wonder because I have another timing since I'm in South America. So
You're South America. Oh, good to
yeah,
know that.
that's why I have said some Spanish words because Susan is one of my ex students of Spanish. So that's why I spoke with her some Spanish wordings. So
And
anyway,
Muy
actual.
bien.
thank you all
Okay.
and have a great night.
Thanks and actual. You too. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you,
Rana.
Susan. Muchas gracias.
De nada.
Thank you all. Thank you, Wafa. Thank you, Marwa. Thank you, Stas Firas. Thank you all. See you next Saturday.